Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're jumping into something pretty mind-bending, brain implants. Neural implants, I guess they're also called.
That's right. We're talking about tech that connects directly to the brain, usually, placed right on the surface or maybe attached to the cortex.
And for this deep dive, we're focusing our lens a bit. We're using excerpts from the Wikipedia page on brain implant.
Exactly. Our mission here is to really unpack what these implants do, where they're being used, the research that's pushing things forward, and importantly, the sort of ethical side of things.
All aimed at getting you up to speed quickly without making your head spin.
Hopefully. We want to give you a solid grasp of this pretty complex field.
Okay, let's get into it then. Putting tech in the brain. What's the fundamental point? What are we trying to achieve?
Well, the main goal really is to electrically stimulate or block, or even just record signals right from the source, single neurons or whole groups of them.
Why, though? What's the benefit of doing that?
The idea is if we understand what these neurons are doing, maybe we can intervene when something goes wrong, like after an injury or because of a disease. It's kind of like fine-tuning.
But the brain is famously complicated. It can't be that simple, right? Just flicking a switch?
Oh, definitely not. That complexity is a huge hurdle. And for a long time, our tools, like neuroimaging, couldn't really capture the super fast electrical chatter, the action potentials that neurons use.
So we couldn't really see the detail.
Exactly. Getting access to those signals, understanding them, interfacing with them, that's the core challenge. But recent advances are really changing the game there. We're getting much better at it.
Okay. And I saw something about making sure the implant and the brain sort of get along. Why is that so crucial?
The interface. Yeah, that's critical. You need materials the body won't attack, ones that can stay stable and transmit signals reliably for, well, hopefully a long time.
So biocompatibility.
Precisely. A lot of research goes into just the surface chemistry, finding materials and designs that, don't cause a bad reaction, just keep working. It's about making that connection last.
And getting them in there. I assume open brain surgery isn't ideal. Sounds risky.
It carries definite risks, yeah. Seizures, stroke, things you want to avoid. That's why there's a big push for less invasive methods.
Like what?
One really interesting approach is using the body's own highway system, the veins. The idea is to navigate through blood vessels to place the implant.
So no cracking open the skull.
That's the hope. It could potentially reduce a lot of those risks associated with traditional surgery.
Okay, so that's the why and a bit of the how. What about actual applications? Where are we seeing progress?
A sensory substitution is a big one. We've seen, well, really remarkable progress since the 70s, actually, especially in vision and hearing.
How does that work?
For vision, think eye implants that talk to the brain, kind of bypassing damaged parts. And for hearing, cochlear implants are a huge success story. They directly stimulate the auditory nerve.
And the brain just learns to interpret that signal.
It does. Cochlear implants really show how adaptable, how plastic the brain is. It learns to make sense of these new kinds of input. And that principle, that adaptability, is key for lots of other implant tech, too.
Restoring senses. It
Yeah.
really does feel futuristic. What about making them last? Do they work long-term?
That's where long-term animal studies have been essential. Even back in the 70s, researchers, I think at the NIH, managed to record brain activity for monkeys for over 3 years straight.
3 years. Wow. Using what?
They use these tiny little electrodes they called hat pins.
Hat pins.
Yeah.
Seriously. What were they made of?
Sounds basic, right? But they were pure iridium insulated with something called perylene. And what's fascinating is those same basic materials are still used in things like the Utah array today.
The Utah array. I've heard that name. Why is it so important?
It's a specific design, really effective for interfacing with brain tissue. It's used in visual prosthetics, studies on learning, and motor prosthetics like the BrainGate system.
BrainGate. That's the one that lets people control robotic arms with their thoughts.
That's the one. So yeah, the Utah array is kind of a workhorse. But it's worth saying, lots of labs also cook up their own custom implants for very specific research questions.
Tailor-made tech for specific brain puzzles.
Pretty much. Allows for really targeted studies.
And the breakthroughs seem to be coming faster now. The source mentioned quite a few.
Absolutely. We've seen studies showing the brain actually rewiring itself during sensory learning. We've seen rats, monkeys, controlling devices directly with brain signals.
Just thinking makes it move.
Essentially, yes. And even humans remotely controlling mechanical devices.
Yeah.
Oh, and then there's the insect stuff.
Right, remote-controlled cockroaches. That definitely caught my eye. A bit creepy, maybe?
It's definitely unusual territory. But the science is pushing boundaries. We also saw the first time the Utah array was used in a human for bidirectional signaling,
Bidirectional, meaning
reading signals from the brain and sending signals back into it, a two-way street. Plus, those early motor prosthetic trials in humans, though longevity, as you said, is still a bit of a bottleneck there.
yeah, making them last seems key. What else is cooking? I saw something about memory chips.
Uh-huh. Researchers are experimenting with prosthetic neuronal memory chips. Silicon chips designed to sort of mimic how our neurons process information.
To restore memory, or even boost it.
The potential is there, yeah. For restoration, maybe enhancement down the line, it's very early days, but the concept is powerful.
Artificial memory.
Mhm.
Wow. And what about these organic and artificial neurons?
That's really cutting-edge stuff.
Yeah.
Organic devices think biocompatible materials could integrate better, maybe reduce rejection risk. Imagine an all-organic implant controlling, say, an exoskeleton.
Seamlessly.
That's the dream. And on the artificial side, people are looking at genetically modified biological neurons, but also entirely synthetic ones that could talk to our biological systems.
The possibilities seem to be branching out fast. Any other applications? Drug delivery was mentioned.
Right. Targeted drug delivery. Using an implant to deliver meds right where they're needed in the brain could be much more precise, maybe fewer side effects elsewhere in the body.
Makes sense. And these melting brain sensors. That sounds wild.
Doesn't it? Developed at the University of Illinois, I think. Tiny sensors for monitoring after surgery, but designed to just dissolve safely once they're done.
So no need for another surgery to take them out. Clever.
Very clever. Eliminates a whole procedure.
Now, Stentrode keeps coming up. This
Yeah.
seems like a big deal.
It really is. Developed by Synchron, came out of the University of Melbourne. It's minimally invasive. That's the key thing.
How so?
It's implanted through the jugular vein. No open brain surgery needed. That's a huge shift.
Through a blood vessel. Wow. That must lower the risks significantly.
Absolutely. And the clinical data back in 2020 showed it let 2 patients control a computer just by thinking.
Just the
Yep.
potential for diagnostics, treatment, communication for people who are severely paralyzed. It's broad. And encouragingly, a 2023 report found no serious issues after a year in the first group of patients.
That feels like a real turning point. Okay, let's shift gears a bit to some of the more maybe surprising applications. The military angle.
Yes, DARPA, the U.S. Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency, has been funding this area for a while. One focus is cyborg insects.
Cyborg insects, like part bug, part machine.
Pretty much. Implanting sensors during the pupal stage.
Yeah.
The idea is they could then transmit data, maybe detect explosives, gases, or even be remotely controlled.
Insect spies.
All right.
And it doesn't stop there, does it? Sharks.
Remote-controlled sharks, yeah.
Yeah.
The idea is to leverage their natural senses, implant a neural interface, guide them remotely to detect ships or mines, underwater sentinels, essentially.
It's hard to wrap your head around sometimes. What else? Moths, beetles. Yep. Moth cyborgs with integrated electronics have been demonstrated. There's a whole DARPA program, HIMEMS, focused on these machine-insect interfaces. They're looking at dragonflies, bees, rats, pigeons, too.
With specific goals.
Oh, yeah. Things like getting an insect cyborg to fly 100 meters and land precisely, we're told. It's about creating these tightly coupled systems.
The DARPA also funded the Stentrode.
They provided early funding,
Yeah.
recognizing its potential for minimally invasive interfaces, not just for paralysis, but potentially military uses, too. And there's other research. Rats with chips to find explosives, even remote-controlled explosive detector locusts.
Locust bomb detectors. The applications are just...
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Back to more familiar ground, maybe.
Yeah.
Rehabilitation. That was an early driver, right?
Definitely. Neurostimulators have been around since '97, used for epilepsy, Parkinson's, dystonia, more recently for severe depression, too. They modulate brain activity with electrical pulses.
And DARPA's involved here, too.
Yes, their RENET program aims to develop interfaces for controlling really advanced prosthetic limbs, making them feel and act more natural for the user.
We hear names like Elon Musk, Bill Gates getting into brain-computer interfaces. Where do they fit in?
Their involvement really highlights the growing interest and, frankly, investment from the private sector. Companies like Neuralink, Synchron, they're pushing the boundaries, exploring everything from medical uses to maybe even human enhancement.
What are the implants actually made of now? And is that changing?
Currently, you see things like tungsten, silicon, platinum iridium, stainless steel, but future materials might include nanoscale carbon fibers, polycarbonate urethane. things that could be even more compatible, perform better.
And we talked about the stentrode avoiding open surgery.
Right, that synchron implantation via blood vessel in 2019 was a big step towards less invasive methods becoming more common.
And this digital bridge idea for spinal cord injuries, that sounds potentially life-changing.
It really does. That study in Nature last year, implants creating a link between the brain and the spinal cord below the injury. It allowed a paralyzed man to stand, to walk, even climb ramps with support.
That's incredible.
What's really striking is, even when the implant was off, he retained some function. It suggests maybe some actual neurological recovery happened beyond just the device helping in the moment.
Truly remarkable. Restoring movement like that, it highlights the immense potential. But this field isn't brand new, is it? Let's look back a bit.
Not at all. The roots go way back. 1870, you had Hitzig and Frisch showing electrical stimulation could make parts of a dog's brain trigger movement. Robert Bartholow did similar things with a human patient shortly after.
Just probing the connection between electricity and movement.
Basically, yes. Then, early 20th century, Fedor Krauss started systematically mapping brain areas during surgery, seeing what stimulation did. Later, in the 50s, Robert Heath experimented with stimulation to influence mood in patients.
And Jose Delgado, his name comes up a lot.
Delgado's work in the 50s and 60s on controlling animal and even some human behavior with electronic stimulation got a lot of attention and controversy. He invented this thymosiever implant.
Right, the bull experiment is famous. There were even whispers about CIA funding, the whole M-cultural mind control thing.
There were suggestions, yes. Delgado denied any CIA backing, but it highlights how this technology, even early on, touched on sensitive areas of control and ethics.
Which brings us back to the present. Well, the goals are now more focused on helping people controlling devices, thought to text.
Exactly. Like that 2012 BrainGate study letting people with tetraplegia control robotic arms. Or the more recent stentrode use for texting and emailing wirelessly from a computer.
It's quite the journey from those early probes to controlling a Surface Book with your thoughts.
A huge leap, showing incredible progress.
But with this power comes, well, concerns, right? Ethical questions.
Absolutely. Big questions. Who is a suitable candidate? What are the genuinely ethical uses? Deep brain stimulation, for instance, sometimes has side effects, apathy, hallucinations, compulsive behavior. It's not always straightforward.
And then the bigger picture, transhumanism versus, I guess, bioconservatism. Enhancing humans versus keeping things natural.
That's a major philosophical debate that brain implants sit right in the middle of. Concerns about, turning people into cyborgs, blurring the lines.
Plus the practical stuff. Informed consent has to be rock solid.
Critical. Compliance with things like the Declaration of Helsinki, ensuring people volunteer freely and understand the risks and benefits. And then there's cybersecurity.
Hacking. Someone hacking a brain implant.
It's a real concern. Vulnerabilities to cybercrime, surveillance, misuse, even just accidental misdesign could have serious consequences if your thoughts or brain functions are involved. Protecting the privacy of thought itself becomes paramount. Who gets access to that data?
It opens up a whole new level of privacy risk. This tech isn't just in labs anymore. It's seeped into popular culture too, hasn't it?
Oh, massively. Science fiction has been chewing on this for decades, often in pretty dark ways. Philosophically, you can go back to Descartes' evil demon or the brain in a vat idea questioning reality and control.
And in books and movies.
Tons of examples. The Terminal Man, Neuromancer in books, films like Brainstorm, RoboCop, The Matrix. They all explore different facets of brain interfacing, often the dystopian ones.
TV too. Black Mirror comes to mind immediately.
Black Mirror is full of it. But also older stuff like The $6 Million Man, Star Trek with the Borg. And video games Deus Ex, Cyberpunk 2077 are heavily built around cybernetic augmentation, including brain implants.
So culture has been grappling with these ideas for a long time, even as the science catches up.
Definitely. It reflects both our fascination and our anxieties about merging minds and machines.
We've covered a lot of ground, from restoring senses and movement to, well, remote-controlled insects and deep ethical questions. It's a field moving incredibly fast.
It really is. Blurring lines between biology and technology, medicine and enhancement. The applications are diversifying in ways few might have predicted.
And those ethical and societal questions aren't going away. If anything, they're getting more urgent as the technology gets more powerful.
That's for sure. Constant vigilance and discussion are needed.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, thinking about everything we've discussed, what potential future, or maybe what challenge related to brain implants, do you personally find most compelling? or perhaps most concerning, it feels like we're just scratching the surface.
That's a great question to leave people with. There's so much potential, but also so much to consider carefully. It's definitely a space to keep watching.
Indeed it is. Thanks for exploring this fascinating world with us today.